So of course, I wanted to just get started here by going over today's agenda. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction of myself, a little presentation, of course, on functional foods for spring, and then we'll open it up to your questions and comments, whether it's about the presentation or about blends and powders and herbalism in general. And then we'll have some closing remarks, including a discount code just for thanking you guys for joining us today. So I wanted to get started off by introducing myself. So my name is Taylor Appel, and I'm a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild. I'm also pursuing a master's in functional nutrition. And I'm just truly passionate about bridging our kitchen and medicine cabinet together and really utilizing food to their full therapeutic potential. So I also, again, wanted to reintroduce our moderator, Michaela. She's here today in the chat box. She'll be answering all of your questions as we move along with today's presentation, as well as providing any links and any helpful tips that she can. So before I get started, I also wanted to let you know we cannot answer any questions about specific medical concerns. So if you do have any specific medical concerns or you're on a specific medical health journey that you would like to integrate herbs or dietary and lifestyle interventions into, please feel free to check out our consultation page on our website, where you can learn more about booking a consultation with myself, and we can work one-on-one together to really help to integrate herbs into your lifestyle sustainably, and so you can feel really those full therapeutic effects, as well as looking at your diet and other lifestyle and functional nutrition pieces as well. So Michaela will pop a consultation link in there too, and we also offer free 15-minute product consultations if you just have any questions about the products that you already have in hand. Thank you, Michaela. Cool. So let's get started. So we're here today to talk about functional foods. So of course, I wanted to go over what functional foods actually are. So functional foods are just those foods that really provide health benefits that go way beyond what the standard nutritional value of that food is. So they may protect us against disease. They might help prevent nutrient deficiencies. And they can also help promote optimal growth and optimal metabolism and development throughout the body. And specifically with metabolic processes like weight gain, weight loss, things like that, and blood sugar regulation can all be therapeutically helped by functional foods in different ways. So there are two main categories of functional foods that we have available to us. So of course we have our modified functional foods. So I'll start with these first. So these are going to be the functional foods that are changed, that they have things added to them to make them more nutritious or have more therapeutic value beyond just the nutrition that they would have alone. So for example, you may see things like in fortified grains and cereals, like added iron and B vitamins, niacin, things like that. Those are in there to help increase the nutrient density of that product. So then the same amount can be consumed, but be more nutrient dense. This was actually a novel idea. This is very interesting. It was a novel idea introduced actually in Japan in 1980s. That's really where it started, about creating kind of this modified fortified food, and it really was to help combat nutrition deficiencies. So it was really for kind of the government, for overseeing parties to help the populations not fall victim, to deficiencies that then can lead to other diseases and just snowball from there. So then over to conventional functional foods. So conventional functional foods are then going to be the opposite. These are going to be things that are naturally occurring in nature. They have, of course, a ton of nutritional value, but they also bring to the table just something a little bit extra. So that could be antioxidants, that could be polyphenols, that could be volatile oils, really all these different characteristics and herbal actions that these fruits and vegetables can bring to the table, just give it another layer of therapeutic value or functionality in our diets. So I listed kind of, a couple there, like berries. We know that berries are very high in resveratrol, and that is an antioxidant that really can help us, that was really known for kind of the anti-aging and really help our cellular health. Also things like fermented foods. So those are very functional as well, right? Because they provide our gut microbiome with all of those healthy microbes, and really just optimize our microbiome, which is really essential for our immune health and really everything throughout the body. As we know, our gut health is essential to the rest of our body health. So again, fermented foods, very functional. So these are just a few examples. There are many functional foods out there that you can integrate into your diet. And today we're actually going to be focusing on these functional foods that come about in the springtime, that are very easy to find in spring, that are seasonal, and really going to be the most nutrient dense this time of season. So what are some of the top functional foods, in season for springtime? So these are just a few of my favorites. Of course, there are more, and it's always going to depend where you are living and what is available in your area. I always suggest, if you don't know where to start or what is seasonal in your area, go check out a farmer's market, because a lot of the times the farmers, they're always going to be supplying right in season. So that's a very easy way to just browse around, see what's in season, get some inspiration, and pick up some new things you maybe haven't tried before that you didn't know was in season right now. So kind of some of my favorites here, of course, honey, radishes, green beans, strawberries, all of these are going to be very nutrient dense, easy to find in the springtime, and offer that functionality beyond just their nutrient value. So I also wanted to bring this up because, whether a food is organic or not isn't going to determine whether it is functional, but I did want you to be aware that there are certain foods that do pose just a higher risk of pesticide exposure and toxin exposure when you don't buy them organic. But again, I want to reiterate that whether you get them organic or not, it's not really going to affect the functionality of them. So really getting them into your diet consistently is really just the key there. But I did want to point this out because as we are now all shopping at farmers markets and in the regular stores, as things come back onto the shelves, just to be aware of what things maybe you need to wash a little bit more thoroughly, soaking them or using baking soda, things like that. They also sell different veggie washes that could be great. Just make sure they're very clean ingredients. But really, you're going to be focusing on things that have thin skins. All of your thin skins, fruit and vegetables, you're going to want to buy those organic, just because the pesticides could then pass into the fruit much easier. And again, if you can't buy them organic, totally fine. You could also peel them, cooking them, all those types of things can also lower your toxin exposure as well. So I wanted to talk about bitter foods and their benefits. So the reason I wanted to touch on this is because it's actually a characteristic of functional foods. So as I spoke to, functional foods, they give us something that's beyond their nutritional value. So the bitter taste in certain foods actually brings a whole new therapeutic value to that food itself. So specifically to support also our detox pathways and just in general for our overall liver health. So in both traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine, and as well as in modern nutrition, bitter foods are often highlighted, again, for just these many potent beneficial properties that they have for digestion, liver health, detoxification. And it's really just one of my favorite categories of functional foods that we have. And around springtime, a lot of our functional bitter foods are coming back into season. And also springtime is really just the time to be focusing on our detoxification pathways, which of course includes our liver and gallbladder health. But bitters can also help with hormone balance, breaking down and absorbing our nutrients, our metabolic health, and of course, again, all of those detox pathways, whether it is sweating, our lymphatic system, our liver system. So really bitter foods bring a whole gamut of beneficial properties to the table. There's also some research that suggests that bitter foods are really great for our immune system, which is no surprise because they're actually helping to create better digestion, which is making us have a more optimal microbiome. So again, like I said before, it is all connected, our immune system and our gut. If we have a healthy gut, we're more apt to then have a healthy overall systems in general. There's also evidence to suggest that bitter foods really can help our pancreas signal to the release of our digestive enzymes. So this again is very important for the digestion and absorption of nutrients. So if you're someone that may have low stomach acid, or you move with things like reflux or gas or bloating and gas and things like that, introducing bitter foods can really help to mitigate some of those symptoms by increasing our digestive enzymes, by making our stomach acid more optimal. So all of these things bitter foods really bring to the table, and why they are so important to integrate into our diets. So as I said, there are a lot of bitter foods that come into season in spring, and these are just a few of my favorites and the ones that come up in my area. So artichokes, asparagus, so peppermint and basil and yarrow, and all of your beautiful, very volatile, oil-rich herbs are also going to be bitters as well. So things like lavender, that's also going to offer some bitter properties, and rosemary, and those just very smelly herbs, especially those culinary herbs. So integrating those into your diet during this time of year is another great way just to support those detox pathways and get in those functional foods. And again, cruciferous vegetables are a great one. I wanted to point that out because they also offer a lot of functionality beyond just bitterness. They help with our hormone balance specifically. So that's a great category of foods to really focus on if you're going to focus on one type of bitter, really to start to integrate into your diet. And some other honorable mentions for bitters. You don't obviously have to just stick to your seasonal bitters, but I wanted to call these guys out because they are just so fresh right now during the springtime. But other bitters include coffee, green tea, dark chocolate or cacao. You just want to make sure that it's dark chocolate above 70% or so or more, and not a lot of fillers. Bitter melon, apple cider vinegar, and vinegars in general are a great way to get kind of that bitter flavor into your diet, as well as cranberries and other sour, tart berries like that. So if you're able to, maybe they're not so seasonal, but getting a little coffee in every day. I know a lot of us don't have trouble doing that, or green tea. It's a great way to support your digestive health, but make sure, at least with coffee, you don't want to be doing it on an empty stomach if you can avoid it. So let's jump into 3 of my favorite functional foods for spring. So first, let's talk about honey. So honey, and I put on there raw and locally sourced, specifically because when you buy honey that is from your area, it is going to have a little bit more medicinal and therapeutic and functional benefits. Being that if you consume honey in your area, it's going to be introduced with pollens from your area. So the idea there is that you're kind of microdosing with those pollens to help reduce your allergy symptoms over time. So I really suggest you start doing this process early before spring season, just kind of as a preventative measure, like through the winter. Making sure you're drinking your teas with some nice local honey is a great way just to prepare your body for that transition into spring if you are someone that does suffer with allergies. Now, beyond just allergy support, of course, honey offers a wide range of nutrition, including antioxidants and medicinal polyphenols, including propolis, which propolis is specifically only found in raw honey, which is another reason why I'm a huge fan of raw honey and unprocessed honey. So propolis is kind of going to just give this other layer of medicinal benefits, and is super healing to all of our tissues, especially if we have a sore throat or a cough, or we suffer with any type of bronchial respiratory infections. Having raw honey is going to be fantastic therapeutic support for those types of ailments. Honey is also a low glycemic sugar, so it's not going to spike your blood sugar as much as, say, cane sugar or some other traditional sugars. It also helps improve our immune system health. It optimizes our heart function. There is so much research out there about using it topically, of course, for burns and wounds. So you can only imagine what it's doing inside of our body if you can just see how beautiful and medicinal and healing it is to the outside of our body. So again, it's really great as a substitute for sugar in different drinks, coffee, teas, smoothies, baked goods. I love using honey in different baking. Just make sure you lower your oven a little bit. And that's just a little trick I've learned kind of from trial and error when you do use honey in baked goods. And you can also, of course, add it to your yogurt, your oatmeal, your smoothies, drizzle it on goat cheese with figs. That's kind of one of my other favorite ways to eat it. But getting honey in as much as you can, is going to be a great functional way to support your immune system and again, your respiratory health as we move into the springtime. So one little recipe I wanted to offer here, I mean, there's a million ways to use honey, but I love using it in dressings and marinades because I love just having it on hand in a different form that I can just integrate it into my meals. And this one specifically, I also use our Firm Believer blend, which is really high in vitamin C. So that's the reason why I put that in there. Again, citrus, just a great bitter herb, but also going to be really supportive for our immune system health. So feel free to double this, triple this recipe, but it's a great, just something to have on hand, again, just to get honey into your diet every day. So next I wanted to talk about nettles. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with nettles, but specifically, well, actually I should say, I actually come from Philadelphia, and where I grew up, maybe nettles were around, but they weren't really a part of my everyday diet or vocabulary at all. But since I moved to the Pacific Northwest, they are everywhere. And people really utilize them just like spinach because they are just such a nutrient dense green herb or vegetable to have on hand, depending on how you look at it. So as I said, they're super nutrient dense, really high in vitamins, minerals, iron, essential amino acids, calcium, all of the really just so many medicinal polyphenols as well. And there's a lot of research about nettles and using it for things for allergies, for kidney health, for urinary health, for blood sugar and cholesterol regulation, as well as supporting inflammation. And a really great way also to use nettles, they're very easy to grow. So I wanted to put that out there as well. I have a beautiful patch that I grow every year in my backyard for my own personal use. But I wanted to put out there as well that nettles can be used topically. They actually can be used, their sting, I'm sure you've heard stinging nettles. So their sting is actually very medicinal. And while it can be a little bit uncomfortable when you're first experiencing it, about 15 to 30 seconds after you let that sting kind of wear off, you'll really start to see that the area that you touch the nettles to starts to feel kind of this relief and this kind of like tingling sensation. So if you were to apply that, say, to a sore back or an arthritic knee, or any area of your body really that is swollen, this is really going to help bring the blood flow to that area, really help reduce the pain, and really help just expedite the healing process of that inflammation. So this is a great way I like to use nettles, and this process is called urtication. Kind of, you can see it comes from the Latin name urtica, urtication. And again, it's a great medicinal, therapeutic, and just functional property of this plant beyond just eating it. But back to kind of how you can also use it in recipes, it really can be used similarly to any green leafy vegetable. It's very much like spinach. Once you wilt it down, it doesn't have any of those stinging properties. Once you blanch it, the trichomes that contain that stinging property completely go away. And you can handle them very easily. But when you are, handling them in recipes, you do want to handle them with care because they do sting when they are fresh. But I love them in nettle pesto. It's a great way to just bump the nutrient density up of your pestos. And you can also enjoy it as a tea or a smoothie. And in traditional herbalism, the seed and the root is actually used as well. So there really is, all parts of the plant is functional in the nettle plant. And I love this recipe. So this is just a springtime frittata, and you can really use, again, any green you want, but I love to use nettle. It wilts just like spinach. Like I said, you can use half spinach, half nettle if you can't find nettle, but nettle also grows wild around riverbanks and in so many areas, and it really is treated like a weed. So I would just make sure that that area is not sprayed, and practice some just mindful wild crafting kind of techniques. And I would definitely explore using nettles in your everyday diet. And you can also grow them, like I said, very easily in your backyard. And they just are super delicious and super abundant. And at your farmers markets, plenty of farmers markets also provide them. So the last functional food I wanted to touch on today is actually artichokes. So a lot of people get a little intimidated by artichokes, especially when they're fresh, because they do take so long kind of to break down and cook and prepare and all of these things, but they just have such a wide variety of therapeutic value that I definitely encourage people to buy them, purchase them jarred, canned, however you can get them into your diet. They're going to be just so rich in fiber and vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, and of course, medicinal polyphenols. And another thing that artichokes have specifically is actually prebiotic fibers. So this is going to be the types of fibers that are going to be very healing to our microbiome. So this is really what's going to be help feeding our good gut bacteria and helping that to thrive. So getting foods in that do this, that have high prebiotic fibers and help this process is very important. So some other health benefits of artichokes are going to be, they help improve our digestion, of course. They are liver or gallbladder health. They're a bit bitter. I don't know if you noticed, but they were on that bitter foods list. So because they have that bitter property, they're going to help with our bile production, which then is going to help with our nutrient breakdown and absorption. So that whole digestive process. They're also going to support our blood sugar balance, our cholesterol levels, regulate our blood pressure. And there's also a lot of research, as I said, about it promoting a healthy microbiome. So if you're someone that really moves with that gas, that bloating, that just dysbiosis in general, artichokes can be a great prebiotic fiber to introduce into your diet. So specifically, they're also indicated for people, you know, with IBS, reflux, indigestion, all these things, as I said before, being that they go along with bitter foods and those properties, those therapeutic properties that bitter foods offer. So if you do move with any of those things like reflux and such, getting your artichoke in is a great way to help combat that. So of course, a loaded artichoke dip, everyone loves a loaded artichoke dip. This one, I kind of like to make a few modifications. Instead of cream cheese, I like to invite people to use blended cottage cheese, really to increase that protein content, make it more nutrient dense, using Greek yogurt as well, upping that protein content, keeping our fat kind of just, you know, in the good area. I love lots of garlic. So this really can be modified however you want. I use spinach in this, but you could also use nettles if you have some extra on hand. Again, those can be kind of used interchangeably. And in this one, I use some moringa powder. This is going to be a very nutrient dense green powder that I highly suggest you check out if you are someone that moves with nutrient deficiencies, specifically iron, calcium, things like that. This could be a great support for you on that in that area of your health journey. Great. So, you know, lastly, I really wanted to wrap up kind of by giving a brief overview of spring through the traditional Chinese medicine lens, as this really gives clues to kind of the more impactful ways to support the body through the seasons, you know, including functional foods that could be really supportive this time of year, but as well as just the energetics around this time and really what that means to this transition between energies. As you can see, the theme of this time of year in traditional Chinese medicine, because it is the time of the new year, it is a transition between yin and yang energies. The element is wood. Green, of course, is the color that is going to represent just spring and all of the newness that is to come. The taste is sour, which really is telling, you know, to kind of what we were saying to bitter. Both of these functional properties and tastes can really contribute in so many ways and so many different dynamic ways to support our health. So sour is going to be helping our digestive health as well. And the body systems that are really associated during this time are going to be, again, our liver, our gallbladder. But in addition to those detox pathways, in traditional Chinese medicine, they very much focus also on the emotions during this time, specifically anger, because anger is tied to the liver. So there's a lot of just notion around expressing your emotions during this time and not holding things back in and allowing your body to move through this transition gently, not forcing things, all of those types of things, and just being aware of your emotions in general can be very helpful during this time. Traditional Chinese medicine also highlights the importance of transitioning to more time in nature during this time, eating lighter, fresher meals, adding again that sour and bitter taste to our meals, making sure we get that into our diet, moving our bodies every single day because we're coming out of this kind of hibernation, this stagnation of winter time. So we want to make sure that we are moving our body, keeping everything open. Especially our respiratory pathways. So making sure we're doing deep breathing exercises when we can. And again, as I said, being aware of our thoughts and our feelings, not holding those back, and especially anger, as that's associated with liver stagnation and things we definitely don't want to be messing with during this time of year. So some herbs just to kind of point out, and of course there are so many more, but goji berries, they really help support our blood, nourish our qi. They're rich in vitamins and minerals. Green tea, high in antioxidants, as well as L-theanine. So that's going to nourish our nervous systems and help make sure that we don't get too jittery from the caffeine, as well as just keeping our nervous systems level. Citrus peel provides that bitter profile and taste, so it's going to be supportive to our liver and detoxification pathways. It's also antioxidant rich. Ginger is a great anti-inflammatory herb. It's going to support our digestion. And then some foods really are going to be, our cooked greens, our cooked grains, making sure things that are easy to digest as we are just waking our bodies up from this hibernation and transitioning now into the springtime. We do want to make sure that our foods are easy to digest. So if you are going to have salads, making sure you're having lots of bitters with them, make sure they are maybe made with arugula or things that already have some bitter flavoring to it to kind of just support that extra digestive process. But as well as things like Chinese yam and plums and vinegars. As I said, vinegars are a great way to get in your bitter herbs, as well as just to support many processes in the body, including blood sugar regulation, and just so much. So yeah, that is our springtime in traditional Chinese medicine. I wanted to just review, of course, everything we went over today. I know it was a lot of information, and I hope you guys got a lot out of this, just about springtime and what foods to integrate into your diet. So functional foods, again, they really just provide that therapeutic support beyond their nutritional value, and they can be conventional or modified. Both are going to provide just a different type of support, but both do provide a different type of functionality. So the bitter taste, always remember to get that bitter taste in as much as you can, integrating things like dandelion greens and other dark leafy greens are great to just support our digestive health as well as our detoxification pathways. So honey, nettles, artichokes, those are just 3 of my favorite seasonal foods, but there are so many out there that could be so supportive during the springtime and just this time of transition. And of course, in traditional Chinese medicine, what we've learned is spring really is just a sacred time of transitioning from energies, allowing the space and the process to voice our emotions, really tending to our detoxification pathways, including our liver and our gallbladder health, eating those warm, nourishing foods, as much as we can, as much as possible, and really just spending as much time as we can in nature and really integrating into the springtime as easily as possible. So yeah, those are all of our tips today for functional foods for spring. And I love to open it up to your questions that you have, whether it's about today's presentation or if it's about some herbs that you might have at home. Yes, this recording will be available. I saw somebody ask. This will be available on our YouTube channel. Please check us out. All of our recordings will be there. We'll also have our recipes up on the blog soon, and we'll have those available for you. And check out our blog page in the meantime. We have tons of recipes on how to use your blends from drinks to savory to sweet applications. We really have a lot growing there in our library. But if you guys have any specific questions, feel free to pop them in the chat while I go ahead and give you guys our discount code for today. So our discount code for today is going to be Bloom 101, all capital letters, Bloom 101. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you don't have any other questions, I just wanted to remind you that we do have some other classes coming up. Great. What about, oh, let's see this question here. What about cooking? What about oils to use when cooking the bitter greens? So the oils that I like to use when cooking in general, I like to use olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, coconut oil. Those are really my oils of choice. I do like to avoid using oils like canola oil, soybean oil, palm oil, sunflower oil, and other seed oils, as they can be a bit pro-inflammatory, especially when heated. So really just using those in moderation when I can. But olive oil, you know, is really a great go-to for most dietary needs and body systems. Awesome. That was a great question. Thank you so much. And again, if your question wasn't answered today, please reach out to hi@apothecary.co and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you guys again for joining us for today's class. Please join us on IG, on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to our email to stay up to date on all of our new launches and all of our classes. And of course, if you are feeling called to book a consultation and work with myself one-on-one, I'd love to work with you. So please reach out. We will get to your response as soon as possible. I'm so sorry about that. Please reach out to us and we'll make sure we get that for you. Thank you guys again so much, and I'll see you guys in our next dosing class next week.